Welcome to episode 2 of season 3 of the Grow Show.
Listen, we start on these episodes.
No, I'm going. You notice how that meant? Episode 2, season 3.
Listen,
You're the one who have the math issue. I don't have a math issue.
2 seconds, I will lose
I sleep math.
So listen, I'm excited about this episode.
Yes.
Because, last episode we introduced our season, we introduced the theme.
And we reintroduce ourselves.
And we reintroduce ourselves. And so today we're talking about the formula for living at your next level now. Like I am evolved, right? That's the message. What is the framework? How do you actually live evolved? How do you actually live as if you at your next level now? Above the line. I love that. And so this is what this episode will be about. We will break down the framework, what each step means. And if you know anything about us, you can
get a framework.
You can get a framework,
you can get a resource, you can get something.
If you don't want a framework, don't listen to the Grow Show. If you don't want to learn or some resource, some tool, I'm sorry, just go to the next one. So we're going to give you a framework, what evolved means, how to apply it, how to live as your next level self in life, in marriage, in business, in leadership.
Yes.
And just in general, right?
Yes.
And so when we think about evolved, just as a recap, evolve is an identity.
Yes.
It's not a process. Yeah. We don't wait to grow into it. We operate from it now.
Yeah. And it's not a destination.
It's not a destination, right? And so the question that hopefully you're asking yourselves, or we want you to ask, is how do you actually live as your evolved self? I know we were on our walk this morning and we were talking about the story of Abraham and how, God changed his name. Mm-hmm. And even while God said he was the father of the nations, even before he became the father of the nations, God had already changed his name. Yeah. He had already asked Abraham to walk in who his true identity was. And that's just one example in the Bible, right? And so that's really how we want you to operate. When can we start activating or actively stepping into the mindset of being evolved in our own life? So let's go into it.
And I just want to highlight the part about mindset, as you would have said in episode 1. If being evolved is a mindset, it's a thought process. It's, you know what, I belong here. I deserve to be, I deserve to have, I deserve to do, I deserve to be. And especially with us being kingdom citizens, we have access to resources and gifts that God gave us. And so, Yeah,
it's owning, and that's a part of the framework, right? Owning just what you have and who you are, right? So anyway, E is excellence in everything.
Yes.
That's the first step in evolve, right? What are your thoughts there, babes?
So for me, the spirit of excellence comes in ensuring that when you're doing what it is that you do it right, you do it correctly, you do it in a way that it can positively impact.
Yeah.
And to be known for excellence in business, that's where you're going to get the customers, that's where you're going to get the wealth and the money that comes along with it.
Yeah.
In a relationship, again, that's where you're going to live at your best self, live your best life, when you're at a place where you're given excellence.
Yeah. And it's not about perfection. It's really about
perfection.
Just showing up fully as yourself as much as possible. And for me, this was a shift for me. Because as a business coach, as someone who's been in business for so long, one of the belief systems that I still adopt, because there's a place to it, is launch it ugly, done is better than perfect, all of that stuff. Just get it out there. Don't wait for it to be perfect, wait for it to be, just get it done. And I lived off that, and that got me to where I am now, right? Just not expecting it to be perfect, just getting it out there. But I believe in the saying, what gets you here won't get you there.
Yes.
And my word for this year is excellence. Because I was like, okay, I have done it all. And I feel like while people see it as probably coming as...
You've not done it all.
I've done a lot. Thank you. I've not done it all. I've not done it all. I know that there's so many other ways that I could provide or show up in a more excellent way than just showing up half. And so this is really what evolved is, being excellent in everything, and to the point where if it's not done in an excellent way, I prefer to now put it off.
Yeah. And
And wait.
you're not settled with it.
I'm not settling anymore. Yeah, right? And so the action that you may want to take is identify one area of your life where you can elevate your standard today, whether it be at work, whether it be in your relationships, whether it be in your self-discipline.
Yes.
Yeah, ask yourself, what is one way that you want to show up in an excellent way? And just choose one and work on that one.
And then if you're ambitious, you can choose more than one in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, at work, you may decide, at home, you may decide, at church, you may decide.
Yeah.
But don't try to choose too many things because then it becomes
Course,
so
yeah,
complex. But if you are ambitious and you want to say, you know what, in these 3 areas, what are one thing that I want to be excellent at, that I want to give a next level? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people would always ask me, well, why are students, you would always ask me that and others, why are students love you so much? My thing is, I try to create a level of excellence. I try to create a higher standard than what's set for me by the university, so I can give them a better quality.
No, I want you to give an example, because your standard at these call it professional, what do you call it?
My professional professor. So one of the criteria is that your grades for the final exam should be submitted within 4 days. I try to do 2 days or next day. So I put the pressure on myself to put the pressure on myself to be able to give it. Nobody is putting that on me. I'm putting that on myself to be able to have a higher standard.
Yeah.
Grades are important to students. Yeah, when I return an assignment, the standard is a week. If I could give it back to them in a day or 2, it means that it put more pressure on me to work, but then it gives them that excellent standard. And that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you have to also decide what you feel you want to show up in an excellent way. It may not be everything, but what is that one thing that people can look to you and say, boy.
How do you show up for excellence in a relationship?
Again, it goes back to an area, right? What is that one area that you say, you know what, I may not be perfect in all ways or in every way, but what is that one thing that I'm going to show up and be excellent? Maybe just cooking, or maybe cleaning, or maybe, I'm going to always, when my husband walks through the door, I'm going to, make sure I dress. That, I remember you used to do that.
Yeah. Look how you just out yourself. I'm glad you didn't say throw you under the bus.
But I used to have earrings, I like my earrings. I used to have my earrings on, no matter what time Glenn came home.
And what happens now?
I know, child.
However, I can say this about you. When I come home, it will be, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
To me, that means so much. What can I do for you? And so I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah. So find that one thing that you say, I'm going to be excellent at. So that's my excellent. What can I do for you today? So that's E. The first V, because there's 2 V's in Evolved, the first V is value-driven decisions. I love this one. When we think of the decision that you make, and we make so many decisions in a given day, week, year, month, your decisions should align with what you value most, not what feels convenient.
Yes.
That is so important when you're operating from an evolved place.
Yes.
And when we say value-driven decisions, it's really twofold.
Yeah.
The first fold is what?
So it's about your core values. And so for us, we have core values for our relationship, for our life, for our existence.
Yeah.
And by having those core values, it guides you into your actions and behavior. So one of our value is growth, naturally. And so we always want to be growing, we always want to be improving, we always want to be able to learn something new, something different.
Yeah.
And so that's a value.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when we think of, people know us for travel, we love travel, and that's a value because it contributes to our growth. It really, really, really
exposes you to so many different things that's happening in our world. Even just coming back off the Vegas trip with the artificial intelligence and the next level
I'm telling
of technology that is out there. I'm like, some things happening out there.
So when we think of making a value-driven decision, how that looks like for us is, and a real-life example is December, when we were planning our Colorado trip with family. That was an expensive trip.
Yeah.
Expensive, relatively.
No, it was expensive. Relative, it was expensive.
You spending Christmas in the mountains of Colorado where the ski slopes are
Yeah.
is not cheap,
It's not
okay?
cheap.
However, and then we building. And
Yeah.
so when we look at, boy, this money could really go
Yeah.
towards some blocks,
Yeah.
some tiles.
And I'm like, this building is gonna still be there when I get back, and I'm still gonna have to do what I have to do. So let's
Yeah, we made a value-driven decision
Yeah.
that, hey, you know what?
this time with family is more important than a building.
And yeah, the building is going
Yeah.
to be there. And so, because some people would have made the decision otherwise,
Yeah.
and that's totally fine
Yeah.
if the value,
Yes,
their
if that's
value
what
is
you
different.
value, yes.
So, make the value-driven decisions. And then the other part of this value-driven decision is making decisions from your value, knowing
Your
that
worth.
you bring a certain value or worth
Yeah.
to however you show up,
Wherever
the
you show up.
marketplace, your ministry, your marriage, knowing that, hey, I am going to make a decision not from a lower place, not from a disadvantaged place, but from a value-driven place.
But and one of the difficult things for people in general is to be able to own their value. Like when I go to the classroom, I know what value I bring. It's not being cocky, it's not being arrogant, it's not being self-centered, it's not being egotistical, it's not being, what's the one that they always say, narcissistic? No. I know my value, I know my job, I do it well. And so I come showing up with that confidence, knowing that this is what I do. When I step in that arena, that's the gift that God has given to me. And so I'm only giving back the gift that God has given to me.
And and from my perspective as a business owner and a business coach, when I make a decision to price a client, and they ask for a discount and I say no, that's a value-driven decision.
Yes.
Because I am deciding that no, I'm not going to reduce my price because I know my value.
Yeah.
I know what I'm bringing to the table. And if you prefer a lower price, that's totally fine.
That's fine.
I can refer you.
That's fine. That is totally fine.
Because my time is also valuable. And so I'm not going to take a lower price.
Babes. I can say babes.
Yeah, you can say babes.
Yeah. It's not even just your time. It's also the fact that you pour so much money and energy and
Thank
effort
you.
into the craft that you do. And so when it comes from a pricing point, last year price, this year
No,
price.
and
in fact, last month price and this month price. Because now you would have expanded what you've learned in artificial
Absolutely.
intelligence. And so when you put on the workshop, you're giving your audience an improved product each time.
And so the evolved version is, before I used to say yes to discounts. Now don't ask me for a discount. Just don't.
Yeah. And if you choose to
And if I choose to do it, then that's a difference.
Yeah.
But don't ask me and don't have the expectations.
And don't be offended if I say no. Just be like, okay, move on to the next.
Yeah. Let me
or
be led.
even in your business, you be comfortable in doing that.
Yeah.
In
Sure.
what you do. You value yourself, know your value, know your worth. So you can say, you know what, no, that's my price. It's $5,000. And that's it. You don't even have to argue and say, take it and leave it. That's your price.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, we can talk a lot about that. Let's go on. So the action for you there is audit your last 5 major decisions. Did they align with your values? And if not, what needs to change?
Yeah.
Really think about that. Your values and core values or your internal value.
Yeah.
Ownership of your identity. You want to say something there?
Owning who you are.
Yeah.
Knowing who you are as a person, as an individual, knowing who you are as to when I show up, what I bring, knowing that what are some of the things that is synonymous with me. As we just spoke earlier about
Brand, professional.
Yes. And so I brand myself as a professional professor. And so when I started out at the university, I come fully dressed in a suit and tie. That was me living in my brand. Of course, it offended some people, but to me,
I don't even understand.
that it wasn't about you. It was about me owning who I am and what I present.
And so, in the boardroom, one of the programs that I do offer, we have this lesson called Find Your Firepower, which I love. I so love that lesson. And it talks about finding what makes you who you are. What is that firepower? What is that it factor? And then not only finding it, but owning it, right? Showing up like this is you.
Yes.
And not questioning and not worrying about the people of who do she think she is or who do he think she is.
Jeff
Bezos.
So we have an inside joke that my wife sent out an invoice to a company, and the lady didn't like the pricing or whatever it was, and so she sent to one of her friends an email to say, well, who this woman thinks she is, Jeff Bezos with this price, and accidentally sent it to Keishel. And so when Keishel saw that, I said, no, don't get offended, don't get mad, just go back to her and let her know you saw the email. However, you can create another product that's fitting in her budget.
Yeah.
And just pivot.
And then I also thanked her for associating me with Jeff Bezos. I mean, because when you think of billionaire Jeff Bezos,
that's a compliment.
That's a compliment. And I also reminded her to get it was a course that I was selling, to get the price before it goes up.
Yeah.
So it's really owning that and not shrinking from what people say about you. Yeah. That's a lot of things that we can say there.
And before we switch from there, you also want to own your flaws. Mm-hmm. Let's not get.
That's a part of your identity.
That's a part of your identity. You know the areas that you're weak in. You know some of the areas that are pain points for you. And so own that. You know what? This is who I am. I'm impatient. How can I improve that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am messy. How can I improve that?
And make it a part of just who you are.
And make it a part of you being evolved.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love that. So your practical action here is rewrite your internal narrative, right? So you want to complete this sentence, I am someone who, finish it. For example, leads boldly, take action, makes a difference. Whatever that ... is, own it and put it out there. You know, the story of, how did Muhammad Ali, who said Muhammad Ali was the world's greatest? And he's now being called the world's greatest all over. Yes. Guess who started that?
Who started?
Him.
Wow.
He started calling himself the world's greatest. Yeah. And then the world
started to call it that.
Believed it and started to call it. And that's really what it is, owning your identity. Now,
so before we go on, in fear of rushing this segment, I think we should give them in suspense.
We don't want to
give them all. We don't want to give them all the goodies one time. And so we're going to put a pause here and tell us what you've learned, what you've taken away. Drop something in the comments and say, you know what you enjoyed, what action step you got to take away, and anything else that we can add to the segment to help it more meaningful.
So in a recap, we're going to pause our framework because we love to keep these episodes nice and tight. Yeah. A 20-minute masterclass is all you need. We know that you're busy, but let's just do a quick recap. Excellence in everything. That's step number 1, meaning identify one area of where you can elevate your standard today, not tomorrow, today. Number 2, value-driven decisions, right? Audit the last 5 decisions that you made. And did they align with the values, your core values or your internal value? And then number 3, ownership of your identity, right? And the action that you want to take there is rewrite your internal narrative, find your firepower, ask yourself, I am someone who, and fill in the blank. And it could be a long fill in the blank, right? Write everything about you. I said it to my cadets. I coach aspiring coaches through Hello 7, and I was saying that to them yesterday on a call, like literally write out everything about you that you want to identify as who you are, and then begin to own it and talk about it, and don't hide pieces of yourself.
Which include the flaws and the pain points.
Include the flaws and the pain points. So that's the 3 steps for so far in the first 3 letters of the Evolved framework. And again, if you are someone who wants to live evolved, and wants to live fully and walk into being versus becoming, we have something really exciting coming up. Follow us, continue to show up, share this link, ask someone to live evolved with you this season, and guess what? We gotta show you how ways we can work together even outside of this podcast. So stay tuned for that. Any final
and drop some guesses in the chat to see what the remainder will be.
That's true. Yeah,
let's see if you're on point.
And until then, until next time, live
evolved.